Such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. I'm so happy you tuned in. KHTS AM 1220 right here in Southern California. Her name is Bella Shaw. I'm your wedding coach, Coach Ron Tunick. And we are so delighted that you took your time. Our show, Bella, is about life. Somehow we came up with this wedding thing.
Oh, yeah.
But it's big.
It's relationships. It's his life.
It's
life
before,
stories.
During, and after the wedding.
And everyone has a story.
I'm excited about this guy. First of all, he was in the radio business, and then, unlike us, he got out and started making a ton of money. JM Entertainment, and he's
George
right here,
Lopez,
George
yeah.
Lopez. Wait till you hear his voice, right here in Santa Clarita, California.
Good to see you, George.
And everybody expects to hear George Lopez, the other guy. So
Yeah,
it's like,
well.
no, the voice is different.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Grew up in this valley. It's been great and been all over. But yeah, from the radio days. Now, actually, this feels really cool being in a studio again.
Yeah, well, you're just a natural, and you can tell you've had that experience. You know, George, we just had the Golden Globes, and today they announced the Oscar nominations, and people are thinking, what does that have to do with weddings? That has everything to do with weddings, because now people want a movie theme, whether it's The Great Gatsby or Hunger Games, or I read something today, the 90s are coming back. You know, it's an event. It's no longer a little tiny church with a pastor. Tell us what modern-day weddings are like.
You know, and this goes probably over the past 7 to 8 years, a big trend. And there's trends in weddings all the time, but the current one is just people really like to personalize, just really make it about them. And, years ago, people worried about, what does the etiquette book say? Is this proper? Is it not? People don't really care a whole lot about that anymore. It doesn't mean they're rude or inconsiderate, but they just really like to bring their relationship and their preferences and their hobbies and passions into it. Ironically, I was talking to a bride yesterday, and she was telling me that their wedding, she said she's a kind of a young, like an old soul in a young body, because the two of them, though they're in their 20s, they're musicians and this and that, and they really wanted the music and everything to be more kind of like, back in the era where you dance with partners and things, and
cool.
they really wanted 40s and swing and this, and that's what they wanted. That's where they're going. So their theme was actually being going to the movies. That was their theme. It's ironic you told me that,
yeah.
But that was their thing, and it was all going to be like they're using different themes from different movies in different areas in the reception, because that's really them.
So, and nothing's taboo anymore. I mean, you can have black bridesmaids' dresses. Like you said, it's individual. It's what this person wants. They are the star for that day.
Yeah, red dresses. I mean, you see all sorts of things that used to be where, there was always this template of do's and don'ts. And now it doesn't really matter. I mean, from the dresses to the themes to floor plans to different style tables and, round, squares, rectangular, U-shape. I mean, they just
But
do all
didn't
sorts
white
of things.
represent... well, we know what white represented. It represented was your wedding night. This is a family show. The kids are in the car.
So, Ron, are you trying to say that doesn't happen anymore? So the white is gone?
Well, I'm just saying, wearing a red dress, really, at a wedding? Seriously? Really?
Sure.
We did a wedding
Valentine
once.
wedding.
Get this. We did a wedding for a
And
girl.
Charlene's nodding. She'd wear a red dress.
This girl's name, she actually went by the name Red. That was what her name was.
Cool.
They called her Red. And she was trying to get into the Guinness Book of World Records by wearing red the most consecutive days. And at that point, she was at somewhere around 700 and something consecutive days in a row of wearing red every single day. And she was going to wear a red gown at her wedding. So
I was going to say, it'd be perfect for a Valentine's Day wedding, wouldn't it?
It'd be perfect for me to get in that book with my duck gear. I mean, I don't think I've missed a day in... I'm going to talk to you off the... but let's talk about the business side of the wedding. What happened to getting married in a church, George? What happened?
My take on it from being around the weddings and just what I hear on it, I think that you've got a situation where, like Southern California, for example, you have so many different, not only denominations, but cultures and races and everything, and there's just so many different intracultural weddings now. And, you'll have a wedding sometimes and it's Catholic and Jewish or,
Armenian
Christian and this.
Baptist.
Exactly. And they're just all over. And so, and then at the same time, I think there's a number of people that they don't always go, or it's kind of like, we can't go to yours or mine, so let's go non-denominational and keep it in the middle. So then they don't go into a church, and then they do it at, the garden wedding at their venue and such. But I think the main reason people do that isn't about religion or not or what have you. I think it's logistics. A lot of times, most of the couples we deal with are kind of like they see it as it makes more sense, because instead of driving over to this church and then having another 30, 40-minute drive back over to this banquet facility or hotel, it's there. All the guests are there. They have the wedding. They move here to a cocktail hour right into the reception, and it's really a logistic thing. They seem to prefer that.
You've probably planned some really over-the-top events where they've got the dry ice and the fog and the disco ball and pyrotechnics and all that sort of thing. Can you give us some examples of some crazy stuff that you've had to plan?
There was once, it was this couple, older couple, and they were having a housewarming party. They had just bought this big ranch up in Placerita Canyon, actually. I don't know if they're listening, but they were having a housewarming, and they were having a Halloween housewarming party. And when all the guests came into their house, they were all in costumes and everything else, and they had this big living room area, and they had like a casket set up with like, it looks like a funeral, kind of a service. And at one point, all the guests went outside to see a belly dancer perform or something. They closed the doors. During that time, they rolled the casket out. An officiant came in and stood there. When everybody came back in, there was seating. They all came and sat. They turned it into a wedding, and they came down the aisle, and basically she was Madonna and he was Pee Wee Herman. And that was their wedding.
You can't make this stuff up.
No,
folks.
you really can't. His name is George Lopez, and his company J&M Entertainment. So if you're thinking about getting married, so how long when does somebody call J&M Entertainment? Do they call you a year before, 6 months?
2 years before, 6 months?
And this is not just with our company, but anybody in the wedding business. It really goes into what each couple values, just what their priorities are. Most of the time it's venue. They want to get the date and the venue settled. And then after that, they kind of go after their things. And sometimes it's just a matter of what's important to them. I'll give you an example. There was a couple that we literally they just booked up with our company. Their wedding is a week from Saturday.
Wow, that was late.
And they booked up with us this Monday.
Oh, my goodness.
And then we have another couple I just scheduled an appointment with. I'm meeting with them in about 2 weeks. But their wedding is Thanksgiving weekend 2015.
So they're planning that far.
If I come back, I want to do what you do. It has to be fun. You're meeting people when they're absolute in what stage we did.
They're
Did you
euphoric.
hear do our stages? You're meeting
Euphoric
people in the
stage.
euphoric stage.
Cloud nine.
Yes. Once in a while, you get them in the bewildered stage.
Well, we don't have that stage, George, but we need to add bewildered, right?
need to add bewildered.
Did you hear the stages when you were driving over?
You know what? I did not. I didn't hear that part.
Euphoric, and then the bubble bursts.
Okay.
The reality
Yeah,
stage.
reality check, and then we have acceptance of their small annoying habits. We have compromise, so that you can live together. You get into your comfort zone where you walk around and lay on the couch and you've got your sweatpants on, and then you move to resentment. And then finally, indifference.
What stage are you in with Sandy?
Right now, I'm euphoric. I'm happy. I have the greatest wife in the world.
Because she's listening. J&M J&M Entertainment. His name is George Lopez, right here in Santa Clarita Valley.
And he travels all over the place.
But let's go back to venue for. I didn't mean to overtalk you there.
he'll go to Hawaii. You'll go anywhere,
We'll
right?
go to Hawaii. Bring it. I'll go to Hawaii in a heartbeat. So.
Sure.
We need to find Mr. Right for her, and then let's go to Hawaii. I mean, she needs to. Do you have any rich friends? Because she's. Wait till you hear the deal breakers. We're going to do deal breakers after your segment. You got to stick around.
We'll get your profile preference, and then we'll find out. We'll all go shopping for you.
Oh, great.
Question, and then we'll take a break here in a minute. Venue. Let's talk about venue. Interesting venues. What are some of the most interesting venues you've done weddings at?
Well, that's the thing. Again, nowadays, and this has really intensified lately, because you would have, for example, based on what themes are going on, and over the past, it's starting to fizzle a little bit, but the rustic, shabby chic, vintage, all these things. So then people would go to venues that they would like that. Special homes. People rent out their private properties for weddings and such. So you're not always at the typical hotel or such. But there's your very common things that people do like, country club hotels and such.
You should rent out Bella's home. Have you seen her little estate?
Perfect.
Holy moly!
And they're probably used to having parties there all the time anyway, so it's like it'll just blend right in
she's
with
a
the
TV
neighbors.
girl, the venue could be anything. Beach. It could be.
It's really
A
anything
log
now.
cabin.
It really is. It could be literally on the beach,
On
a
a
log
boat.
cabin, out in the middle of a field, a desert. Sometime we did this wedding one time. They actually put up a big tent, a big top, and the theme was a circus. And they just put it out in the middle of a big lot, and they just had their
What did they do? Ride in on elephants, or
no, but they actually did a thing where they had these clowns rolling them in on these little carts. And
I want to
stuff.
shout some questions, but I was just looking at Kyle's. Look at his wedding band. I know a little ADD. You challenged me, Andy. So we need to do it next week. A segment. Have you seen where they're tattooing? You know more about this than I do. Are they tattooing the ring on the finger?
Well, that would
you
be
seen
something.
that?
I guess they're really trying to make
now
sure
the
that
men
he's not going
can't
to take it off.
Yeah,
No, but
can't take it off.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the gold brass ring like I do. He's got anyway. Never mind. But maybe you add a tattoo thing to your J&M.
Well, again,
entertainment. Start doing tattoos.
It just goes into a lot of different things. You have certain cultures where, for example, they do a lot of, and this is in a lot of weddings, you'll have what's called peripheral entertainment. You know, you have your typical, you know, if it's a DJ or a band or something, but then people want, this is where your photo booths come into play and these other things. There are weddings that they'll have casino for the cocktail hour instead. They actually have some, like, you know, tables to play on. Other times a henna tattoo artist, and that's where you'll have things like that, and people are getting their henna
I'm pretty
tattoos.
shallow. What about how often do I know Bella spray tans? How often do the brides spray tan? Does every bride spray tan?
Well, that's a huge trend, and that's come over really big. And you know, it's a combination. They want to look good, but then there's the, you know, people don't always tan up all the time and go, and you know, there are people with the UV lighting and all that.
You want to get rid of the bathing suit strap. You know, if you have a strapless
But the spray
dress.
tan is a really big deal. And
Yeah.
there's ones where you go to them. Now there's specialty ones where they'll actually come to you the day of your wedding and actually do that, and all the bridesmaids and take care
Tammy
of all of
does
them all the
that.
time.
Yeah, my friend Jan Sullivan does that too.
And Tammy? Tammy's going to be on our show
Yeah,
real soon.
it's a big business
Tammy
now.
Butler. She does spray tanning.
Right.
So,
And don't you find that people try to top each other? It's like, oh, I can't do that because my friend did that. So everybody's trying to come up with their own unique.
those are your friends. Those aren't George's friends.
You know, it's interesting. You're right, though, Bella, because there are people that, like, you know, sometimes they don't want to feel like they're copying
Right.
somebody else. That's a big issue because they don't want to. Oh, I don't want to use that song because she used it. Like they've now owned the song, you know.
Yeah.
And so for whatever, a first dance or a parent dance or something, but there's almost like this unwritten like respect that they don't want to feel like they're just copying somebody else, kind of plagiarizing a wedding if there's such a thing. You know, they want to make it more out of respect. They want to make it more their own, and that's what makes it easy with all the venues and themes and everything that people will, you know, differentiate with nowadays. So.
Did anyone ever want a Kardashian wedding? A Kardashian theme?
That would be interesting. I like that concept though. To be one of those making actually a profit on the wedding. That would be cool, like what they did.
Got to take a break. I want to come back. We're going to do your deal killers. An hour goes so fast. Listen to Wedding Bells Radio, weddingbellsradio.com and KHTS AM 1220 right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. I want to come back and plug his bridal show because we'll take a minute before we do your deal killers.
Okay.
Talking to George Lopez, everybody. J&M Entertainment. His name is George Lopez. Where's he get J&M? I don't know. We'll find out too. Be right back. Thanks, Kyle. We'll be right back.